and then certain nutrients inside the mother's
Exactly.
body.
It's a causation, but it's not really a dependency.
Once it's born into the world, now it kind of needs different things to survive.
Yeah.
Which is maybe slightly different.
May I just join this?
Sure. Yeah, so it's dependent. Yeah. So the things that we have dependent things in our unit that are contingent on other things. So that's why we say that you cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. You require a necessary being to give rise to all of those things.
Well, hold on. Why can't you have an infinite regress?
You can't, because how can you have an infinite? If you had an infinite regress of dependent things, you would never have the what we have here today, because there will be an infinite regress, like for going to eternal, with the fallacy to infinite regress.
So you think the universe is finite in time?
Yes, it has to be. Yes, because it also has the attributes that it's contingent, which is my other argument. For example, it's composed of parts, or composed of pieces, and it can be any other way.
Couldn't be any other way.
It could be any way. That's why. That's why it's contingent. You can't, because this man here is wanted to ask.
Okay.
You ask him, but I think he's got a script that he needs to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you've actually got a script.
Of course, it's not.
It's not really my script.
But he doesn't know. My defense is impregnable. I'm joking. I'm Alexander. No, what is it? Praise be to Allah.
Talk to him about the age of Aisha, because he was having
we spoke about it so many times. No,
so you're saying everything is dependent or contingent upon something else.
Yeah.
Except.
Okay, so we're saying
except for one thing.
Yeah.
Which sort of precedes everything.
No, we're saying basically that because there are dependent things within our universe, and dependency is something that depends on something else for its existence, something that is composed of pieces and something that can be any other way. Therefore, we say that we require a necessary being that is independent, self-sufficient, and gave rise to these dependent things. Right. So it's a necessity. So that's what we're saying, it's a necessary being, because it requires that.
I understand. Yeah. Now, see, that step in the argument is the big leap for me.
Yeah.
Where you say you have all these contingent things, so we need this being that is necessary.
Yeah.
And I can't remember all the attributes you gave to me. What justification allows you to make that leap?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, it's very simple. The argument of contingency is very simple. We cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. Therefore, we require a necessary being. Now, for example, very simple question. We can cut to the chase. Yeah. Do you believe the universe is dependent or independent?
Undecided.
What does that mean?
It means I think the scientific inquiry that will allow me to answer that question.
What's the scientific inquiry?
Has not been completed. Well, we have a theory of, we have all this kind of physical theories about how the universe came into being. We have evidence. We have the red shift. We have the cosmic microwave background.
That's fine. These are all theories.
All these things which give us evidence of the Big Bang.
That's fine. These are all theories. But what I'm saying is very simple. The universe is either dependent or independent. It's a very simple question. Like either you're going to say that the universe is dependent or it's independent.
Sure. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is because this all seems to depend on the nature of the Big Bang or what eventually preceded the Big Bang.
But it's irrelevant to the equation. What preceded before it or after it? It's very simple. It's either dependent or independent. It's not like a trick question. It's just simple. It's dependent or independent.
I understand, but I'm saying I can't answer the question.
Well, if you can't answer the question, then we cannot go forward, because it just now everything's on, because you're not answering a very simple question, which is either the universe you can say is independent.
I can't answer the question because
then we can't move forward.
I don't have access to the knowledge of the entire universe.
You don't need to. I speak to many atheists. They'll come and say, I believe the universe is independent, meaning that it is free from any need. The universe is the necessary thing. And I say, okay, let's talk about that. Or they come and say, the universe is dependent. I say, let's talk about that. So if you're choosing not to, then the argument just stops here. There's nothing else I can do forward that I can help you.
Well, I don't see what. So you don't think it's ever correct to say I don't know?
No, not correct. It's just I believe it's sometimes not yourself, but some atheists use it as a cop out. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. It's okay. I respect it, but what I'm saying is that is the universe.
Because if someone proposes an argument.
Yes.
In order to contend with it, I don't need to necessarily propose a counter argument.
I don't want to counter.
I can just poke holes. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Exactly, like you say that God doesn't exist. That's an extraordinary claim that requires extraordinary evidence. So what I'm saying is very simple. The universe is either dependent or independent. If you say I do not know, the conversation ends here, because it can't go forward. It's like you're saying I do not know and I cannot. I'll say I'll respect that.
Have to end the conversation.
Well, of course. What am I going to say anyway? Okay.
It means there are other lines of inquiry.
Okay. No, there isn't. The universe is either dependent or independent. There is dependent, independent. I don't know. I don't know is okay. Finished. The discussion done. Is
You don't know about the law of the excluded middle? Might be
What's the law of the excluded middle?
the idea that given a binary, or not necessarily binary, a finite set of possibilities to answer a question, there may always be a possibility you haven't considered. Or you
Okay,
haven't- or you
so
haven't
okay, no
included
problem.
into the equation.
Dependent,
No, I don't
independent.
know.
I don't know. Give me
I
the
don't
fourth
know-
one.
I don't know that in this particular example that is the case.
Okay.
And even if it were, I don't know what those other possibilities would be.
Okay, so
But
let's talk with what we know. Dependent, independent. I don't know. You're going. Which one are you going with? You're going with I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, then the conversation ends here. There's nothing I can do. I'm just okay. You don't know, then I'll just say that's fine. I respect you don't want to know or don't. You think you don't know? Okay. The conversation. There's
Both ways. That's what he's trying to say. It's
Huh?
both ways. If it's true for him, it's also true for you, right?
no, because he's saying I don't know. I'm saying I know. I know that the universe is not independent. So I'm asking him, is it dependent or independent? He's saying I don't know. I go, well, okay, the conversation has to end here because we can't go forward. It's like,
So you're saying the US is not? You're saying the US is dependent?
yeah.
on this
Yeah.
ne-
So
on
I'm
this, on this
yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
eternal
No.
being.
I believe it is dependent
Right.
for my reasons, but I'm saying I need to know what you believe so we can discuss that. Because you're saying
no.
I don't know, then I'm saying okay, there's no discussion. I'm gonna have to.
Well,
Pray.
but I think
Go.
there's something interesting there because you're assigning all those traits to this being, which you assert the universe is dependent on.
I can come to the why I'm doing that.
Now I could argue that the universe has all those traits.
Okay, thank you. Good.
And,
good. Okay.
so the universe
Is
doesn't
independent.
Need,
Perfect.
is independent. Doesn't need to be
Perfect.
dependent.
Yes, good.
So,
So-
what? Now I'm not necessarily making that
No,
claim.
you have to make that
But
claim.
what gives you the ability to
Okay, good.
decide
So what I'm
those
saying-
traits are tied to the universe?
Okay,
or
good.
something
So what I'm saying is this, yeah.
preceding?
The reason why you're saying that is because you know, if you say dependent, then you're admitting that it depends on something. If you say it's independent, now you've admitted that
Well,
it will require something that is independent.
of course.
All you've done is ascribe it to the universe, and all I have to do is prove to you why the
But
universe
even-
is not independent, it's dependent.
But even if I said the universe is dependent on something,
Yes.
why does that thing have to be God?
Okay, both of them. No, I'm not God. I haven't gone to God there. I want to make you a deist before I make you a theist. Yeah. So what I'm saying is this: when you come and say it is dependent, the question I'll ask you is, what does it depend on? I'm not bringing God to the picture just yet. So what I'm saying is, I will say to you, what does it depend on? It cannot depend on something that depends on something else. It depends on something which is infinite regress. That's a fallacy.
That's the
So then, if you said to me, it is independent, then I'll say to you, good. You've affirmed a necessary being. All you did is ascribe it to the universe. Now I'm going to prove to you why it cannot be the universe. Then you're going to have to say, okay, once you've proven to me, then we're going to say, well, the necessary being has to be something outside the universe. Then we're going to go and make our pathway to God. So I'm going to go, just for the sake of the discussion here, that you say that, like you said, let's suppose it is independent. Good. So when you claim, or when you want to say, with the argument, say it's independent, you have acknowledged what? That we require a necessary being. All you've done is ascribed it to the universe. Now I'm going to tell you why the universe cannot be necessary and it's not independent. Why? Because the universe is composed of pieces. The universe could be any other way.
What do you mean it's composed of pieces?
Pieces. Like, for example, we're a piece of it. Like, for example, the stars, dark matter, dark energy. These are all these elements that are in place that is composed by.
Do you not the universe is all of those things?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's composed of these pieces.
Right, but you can see it as being composed of all these pieces, or you can see it as being a singular entity.
No, that's fine, but it's still composed of that. For example, we have it's energy, yeah? We have a set amount of energy within our universe, yeah? Okay, that energy is pieces. It's composed by those pieces. That's what makes our universe. Anything that is composed by pieces cannot be independent. Point number 2.
Why not?
Because it cannot be, because it has the attributes of being any other way. So we can, look, the fact that there's a set amount...
I don't see... So you're saying that the fact that there are... not countless, but
Yes.
a huge number of many
Yes.
possible configurations
that's-
for the universe
yes.
in terms of where the energy and the matter
Yes.
is, the fundamental constants,
Yes.
etc., all these
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Why does that mean it can't be
Because it's composed,
independent?
because it's limited. It shows that because there's a set amount of it, it shows its limitations. It is dependent. That is a dependency right there. Even though, like, for example,
This is where I'm not following you.
you don't need to follow it. I'm saying that it's very simple.
well,
Anything
in order-
that's
well, in order for the argument
my
to make
definition,
sense.
my definition, anything that is
Someone needs to
composed.
follow it.
No. Well, the audience can follow it. So the point is this: anything that is composed of pieces cannot be independent, and anything that can be any other way. For example, we could have 5 trillion extra galaxies in our universe. It can be any other way. therefore it cannot be independent. We say the independent being is not composed of pieces, and it cannot be any other way. That's the reason why the universe is dependent.
So
what does it depend on is the necessary being.
Sounds like what you're talking about then is some kind of determinism, right? That if the universe were independent, that it would have to be one specific way, as in the universe would have to have been deterministic from the start. Is that what you're saying?
That what you're talking about there, it's a bit different. You're talking about the qadr, like what God has written, and that's how it is.
But when you're talking about the universe being this way or that way, what you're kind of really talking about is it deterministic or not, right?
Yeah, well, we're saying that it cannot be any other. Anything that can be any other way is dependent. We say God cannot be any other way. We're saying the necessary being. The reason I'm doing this is to prove to you that the universe is dependent, and if it is dependent, then it requires something that it depends on, and it cannot depend on something that depends on something else. It has to depend on something that is independent.
Do you think?
Therefore, that's the necessary being.
Do you think the universe is unique?
Is what?
Do you think there's one universe, or do you think there could be?
No.
Several?
We believe in the necessary being, which is God Almighty. He could create. He's a creator. He can create many.
Create many universes.
Many. No, I'm saying he has the ability to do that.
Sure.
I'm talking about our universe.
So if a cosmologist showed you evidence that there are several universes, perhaps in series, like a sort of
multiverse theory,
contracting, expanding, or a sort of in parallel multiverse theory, and different universes in this model have different fundamental constants, different amounts of matter and energy.
Yes.
Would you not? So that would show, universes can be lots of different ways.
Yeah, exactly. Which shows that they're still dependent. Because the multi-universe with different dimensions, whatever it is still dependent. If it's anything that is composed of pieces and can be any other way, is dependent. So my argument, if there's 1 trillion universes, it's still dependent. So I have to ask the question: all these universes, they are dependent. What do they depend on? The necessary being that is independent, self-sufficient, and cannot be any other way. So we say that necessary being is the one that gave rise to all these universes.
Do you think that the universe, or just that reality itself, knows about this concept of dependence and independence?
It's irrelevant to me. It's irrelevant to me if it knows or it doesn't know.
Well, no, I don't think it is irrelevant because.
Why is it irrelevant for me?
Because you're asserting this model of contingency of X is dependent on Y is dependent on Z, etc. So that you could take, in theory, any object. Or process, or I don't know what you want to draw lines around exactly, and you could trace it back to something which would take you to the necessary being, right? But that's you kind of drawing lines around things in a very human way, kind of defining objects. The universe doesn't really know what these objects are.
I don't care what the universe knows. I'm talking about what you know. You're using your logic and rationality because of course I'm not going to care about the universe because I don't believe the universe has a conscience. So I'm talking to someone who has a conscious being who can make rational decisions, which is yourself.
Right, but you do believe, presumably, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the necessary being that precedes the universe has a conscience.
No, we don't say conscious. We say that he has a will. He has a will that he wills the universe to come to be. Well, the consciousness, because consciousness. What does consciousness mean? What's the definition? We don't ascribe things like necessarily to God in that sense. So we're seeing that I don't need to know that. You know, for example, that you exist. You're speaking to me. Yes, you're using your rational.
So now there is something that you don't need to know.
Yes.
Whereas previously, when you told me that I don't need to know what the cause of the universe is, you said that was strange for me. But
what cause of the universe?
But you don't need to know.
What cause of the universe?
The necessary being, or not even the necessary.
No, I said he has a will. I said I can't say consciousness.
So there's something you don't know.
No, I do know that he exists. Like I exist and he exists. My existence and his existence is not the same thing.
Yes, but you don't.
But I'm not going to say he has a consciousness.
Yes, but you don't know whether he has a consciousness.
Oh no, I know his attributes, but I don't know his internal
No, you don't know the mind of. No,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm not expecting you to know the mind of God.
That's what I'm saying.
God existed.
Yeah.
But it seems to me you don't even seem to know what the nature, what the structure.
No. We know. For example, we know attributes. Like for example, That's the reason why when we say there's a necessary being, when we prove that by proving that the universe is dependent, now that necessary being has to have certain attributes. Why? Because if he is the one that the universe depends on, that means he willed. He has the power of will. So now we're giving attributes to that God. We're making it now personal. We're coming to theism now, which is what? That God had, this necessary being, shall I say, has the power of willing something. So he willed the universe to be. So it means he has a will. There is information in the universe. That means he has to be the all-knowing. There is power in the universe. He has to be the all-powerful. So what I'm saying is now,
why does he have to be
very simple. When you look at a picture,
surely someone could create something.
No.
Because I could create.
someone.
I could create a computer simulation of something.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't necessarily know all the possible pieces of information.
Yeah, that's because you're a human being. But God knows everything.
Why does God know?
Because he has to. Because he's a necessary. Because he's necessary, he cannot have a deficiency of not knowing. That's why we say he has to be the all-knowing. So do you see when we give these attributes to God is because he is ultimately perfect. The necessary being is the absolute source where everything began and it stops. So that's why we're saying he has to have a will, he has to be all-knowing, he is the all-powerful. This is, in a nutshell, that's what I mean.
I just don't get how you're reverse engineering that.
I'm reverse engineering.
You seem to be saying that we're here and the universe we're in has to have this
dependent.
necessary, has to be contingent on this necessary being. But you seem to be arguing that through this kind of general principle of contingency.
Yeah, I think.
Just if you apply the principle more generally, can you point to a more mundane example of X that's contingent on Y, X knows about?
No, I think it's very simple.
Because you're necessary being God.
Is the Dawah table still there? Because I had my packed lunch. It's in a black bag. Did they pack it up? Oh yeah, it's underneath there, bro. It's a black bag. It's like a packed lunch. Sorry.
Because your necessary being God concept is unique. It's so special with regards to this principle of contingency that you're asserting.
Yeah.
That special quality, you seem to be asserting it because if we didn't have that quality.
It's what's it called? You call it the brute fact. That's what it is.
It's not a brute fact. It's a brute assertion.
It's a brute fact.
Well, if it was a brute fact,
and I demonstrated it.
If it was a brute fact, you wouldn't need to prove it. It would just be self-evident.
No. It is self-evident. You're the one who's. You have to prove that it doesn't.
No, it's not self-evident. Because
it's self-evident.
You've had to show this whole line of reasoning.
It's not.
Together, so it's not self-evident.
No, it's self-evident because the thing is, when I made these arguments, you didn't bring one counter. Not one counter, which shows it's self-evident.
I've given several counters.
You did not bring one counter. Just my pack lunch. Show me one counter you brought to my contingency argument. Yeah, black man. Show me one argument you brought to my contingency argument. One.
There's no leap of logic that you can make between saying we have the universe and saying there must have been.
There you go. Just admit.
You're not because as a human observer,
just admit.
You're not outside the universe.
I don't need to. Look, just admit. You did not bring a counter. You even actually at what moment stuttered and said, "I'm just going to say I don't know," because you realize because the moment you say dependent or independency, you know that it's going to lead to a necessary being, and that's what happened. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, at the end of the day, I've made my arguments. For the viewers that are watching, it's crystal clear. So I would say, in a nutshell, I am dependent on eating food. My wife made food. I'm dependent on that. I have to go eat. I'm hungry. So I depend on this. And this depends on many other things. There cannot be infinite regress of dependent things. I also depend on prayer. I need to go pray. So I think, look, let's agree to disagree.
But these are all just like humanist. You don't depend on that food.
Of course, I depend on this food.
You could stop eating.
This food is delicious. Are you trying to say to my wife that she doesn't make nice food? What are you trying to say?
That's not.
Yeah, hold up for a second.
You know that's
I'm joking. No, I'm dependent. If I don't eat, I'll die.
Right, exactly.
If he doesn't eat, it doesn't matter.
But this is my point. The universe doesn't know about.
I don't care if it knows or not. It's not conscious. Do you have evidence the universe is conscious? No. So then why are you talking about? Does it know? The universe knows. Like it's a being I talk to. Hey, universe. Hello.
It's an anthropomorphization. Yes.
Exactly.
But it's an analogy to.
No. But you're asking me, does the universe know? I don't believe the universe has the faculties to know. It's
But then-
it's an inanimate. It's
exactly.
inanimate.
But then your whole model of contingency doesn't
Yes.
make any sense because
How does it not make sense? I'm telling you, the universe. The attribute I'm giving
I'll tell you why.
is
Because you're asserting the existence of contingency in an objective way.
yes.
Correct.
The universe does not need to know that.
But it does. Because,
No, it doesn't.
Because it does.
Okay, one
it
second.
does- it
Your
does-
jacket is
it
dependent.
does.
Let me speak to your jacket.
No.
Are you
Don't-
dependent?
Don't.
It doesn't need to
don't
know.
distract me with example.
I'm not distracting you. I'm speaking to your jacket.
If the universe doesn't have this principle, a physical law of contingency built into it,
What's
and then you
built
come
into it?
along and
It's
assert,
a reality. It's not built in. It's a reality.
But then, if it was a reality, it would be a physical law, like
No, but you're saying the universe
thermodynamics or gravity.
No, but you're saying the
anything.
universe should be conscious of the contingency.
No, I'm not saying.
Oh, sorry. Okay, what's it?
I'm making an analogy. I'm not saying it should be conscious of that. I'm not
Okay.
saying the universe is conscious.
Okay, good.
When I say the universe knows something,
Yeah.
what I really mean is the universe has a physical law or is self-consistent with respect to this
It is.
particular.
It's self-consistent that it depends on other things for its survival.
But in order for that to make sense, there needs to be a consistent
There is.
kind of way to describe
There is. Everything.
contingency.
No, very simple.
How
Everything.
can you physically?
Everything in our universe-
What does contingency look
Look.
like
Let me tell you something. Are you serious?
Or even in a meta.
One second.
Or
one
even
second.
in a meta.
What does contingency look physically? What do you
I
mean?
don't mean in terms of. I don't mean visually.
No, what do you mean? I don't get it. What do you mean looks physical? I'm
Because
just
we can do experiments we can do experiments with the LHC to find subatomic particles.
No, I know.
We can
But
do
you're talking about things that you observe that you can. I'm telling you that this
is-
idea,
what is the physical
anything.
law
Look.
behind
Look. There's no physical law. I'm telling you a
Then how do
rational.
you know it exists?
Because I'm having a rational, logical dialogue with you, and I'm telling you, everything in the universe is dependent.
Yeah, which is
And
something
you
you're
have
asserting.
one second. I'm asserting, and you have not brought a single argument to debunk it. I'm telling you, look, very boldly. Look. I'm making. I'm making it.
Require extraordinary
Yes,
evidence.
and
It
you're
is not
making
up
extraordinary
to me- it is
claims that
not
God
up to
doesn't
me
exist,
to
and I'm.
refute your claim.
Thank
It's
you.
up to you
So
to
I'm saying
support your claim,
you're the one who's
which
bringing
you are
extraordinary
not
evidence.
doing.
So I'm
What is the
saying
physical
the
principle of
universe,
contingency?
the universe
You
is
can't answer my
dependent.
question,
The universe is
therefore your
dependent.
argument falls down
Thank you very much.
Because you don't
We
understand.
know who got intellectually fall down. You can see that, yeah.
no.
I'm saying very simple. The universe is dependent. Everything in the universe
You
is
can keep
dependent.
saying it, it's not going to make it
Simple.
True. It doesn't make it true.
Not a single argument to counter it. Therefore, if the
Not a
universe is
single argument to
dependent,
support it.
if the universe is dependent, it requires something independent to give rise to it. Case closed. I'm dependent on this field, and I'm going to go now. Thank you very much. And you depend on going and refighting your arguments. Take care.
So do I
Thank
get
you.
5 minutes or first you pray?
Let me just pray. So